Hello, I believe that we are now on the air. Welcome. I am Peggy McColl, New York Times best-selling author. Today we're doing our webinar a little bit differently. We have a little chat roll on the right-hand side of our screen. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to have that chat available, that little chat box available at the beginning of our call. Then I'm going to shut it off. And then I'm going to turn it back on at the end of the call, just so it's not distracting, because I really want you to give this your undivided attention. Does that sound good to you? So the chat's going to be on at the beginning of the call. I'm going to ask you some questions. Looking forward to some of you typing in your answers there in the little chat box. And then at the end of the call, I'll bring it back on. Okay. Now, I love that some of you guys are here nice and early. There were a lot of people that registered for this event. And, I'm very much like a few of you that arrived here nice and early, sort of got your seat, front of the room, if you will, and ready to learn, ready to apply. And so it looks like we've got some wonderful folks here. Hey, Joshua's on. Hey, Josh, nice to see you again. Okay, great. Here's the question that I want to ask you before we even start this thing. Well, actually, we've already started. So here's the question I want to ask you. This event is called Authors and Money. And whether you're an author already or you're thinking of becoming an author, it doesn't matter. It's for you, whether you're thinking about becoming an author or you're already an author. You may have even released your book and it's out there in the world. And if so, that's great, because definitely what I'm going to apply or talk about today applies to you. Okay, so here's the question. The first question, I'm going to ask you to answer yes in the little chat box here. So the question I have to ask you is, would you love to be in the top 1% income earner? Would you love to be in the top 1% income earner in your country, in the world, just where you are, where you live right now? Would you love that? I'm not talking about being an author. I'm just talking about earnings, the kind of money that you make. Would you love to be in the top 1%? Just type a yes. Just yes, yes, yes. Maybe some of you are already in the top 1%. Yes, that's what I'm looking for. All right, great. Joshua says yes. Stephanie says yes. Now, I know there's a whole bunch more folks that are on the call right now. Just type in the little chat box. You'll see there we go. Guess 4232, Lanny from Washington State. Yes, 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 says Joshua. There's some enthusiasm right there. I love it. Okay, somebody else. Who's a guest? Another guest. Yepper. No matter how you slice and dice it, still the same response, correct? Yes. All right, great. Now, I don't know about the rest of you or why you wouldn't even want that, but let's just stop here for a moment. I'm going to just stop right here and give you a lesson, all right? Because this is so incredibly valuable. Anyone, doesn't matter where you come from, doesn't matter what your experience is, doesn't matter what your education is, doesn't matter whether you have money or don't have money, anyone can become or be in the top 1% income earners. All right, it's possible. Sometimes the reason why people don't answer yes to that question is because they don't think it's possible. But it is possible. Absolutely, I see as an answer there by Michael. All right, good, good. Okay, now, some of you are already authors, and some of you are thinking about becoming an author. Okay, so you're thinking about becoming an author, or you're already an author, or maybe you've been an author for a while. So here's my next question. I want you to type the answer in the chat box here. How about, or how would you like, or would you like, would you like to have your book on the New York Times bestseller list? Be recognized as a New York Times bestselling author. Is that something you would like? Answer yes in the chat box, or yeppers, or absolutely, or whatever form or version of yes that you would like to include in the little chat box. Okay, we're getting some yeses here. All right, great stuff. We've got a whole bunch of guests on here. Stephanie says yes. Joshua says yes. Michael says yes. Dr. Yusi said yes. All right, awesome. Lanny says yes. Perfect. All right, great. We're getting some real commitment here. Super. Okay, now here's what happens. Sometimes when we're asked questions or we're given opportunities to show us how to experience more in our life. And as a human being, that's what the way we're wired. We're wired to desire to have more in our life. That's a human that's expressed in greater expansion and fuller expression. It's just the way we are. But sometimes when people are offered the opportunity, what happens is they start to think, or they immediately start to think, how? How is that going to happen? How is that going to happen? And if they don't have the how, or they don't think it's possible, they will they'll block any ideas and they'll block the flow. So what I want to ask you is, are you willing to suspend any disbelief and perhaps put aside any of the thoughts or beliefs or paradigms that you have that may have prevented you in the past from experiencing success? Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to put that aside? Because I've got a whole bunch of stories and some examples and ideas and strategies to share with you. So this is another yes answer. So just type in yes in the little chat screen. What a dream, says guest 719. Awesome, completely. Yes, yes, yes. This is fun. I hear the pop, pop, pop on my screen every time somebody chats in the little chat box. Great. I love your engagement. You see, the way you show up here is very likely the way you show up in the world as well. And how we show up is going to determine what we receive in the world as well. So a big part, I'm going to give you a lesson right now, another lesson right now. A big part of success is showing up, right? And just being fully engaged and fully involved. Show us how, says Joe. I love it. Hey, Karen's here. Cool. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I have a presentation already prepared for you. Hey, how are you, Haim? I see that you're here. Wonderful. I heard you were in Ottawa on Monday. I have a presentation for you right here, right now. And I'm going to go over to presentation mode, and I'm going to open up my presentation and show it to you. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down the chat box because I don't want it to distract you, and I certainly don't want it to distract me as well. All right, so guest 7622, hi. Guest 7622 says, hi, Peggy, I'm here too. Wonderful, I'm happy that you're here too. All right, so I'm gonna shut this down so the chatting is going to stop, and so that I can do this where you're not gonna be distracted. Okay, so here we go. Jane, all right, Jane, welcome. Cool, okay, good. All right, shutting it down. It's going to say moderator only. Okay, so you guys won't be able to type in the chat screen right now. So I'm going back over here, and now I'm going to share my screen. And let's go right to my desktop. I'm going to share my desktop and then go straight over to my PowerPoint presentation. So now I'm still hearing chat, chat, pop, pop on my screen. So I think I know why that's happening. But anyways, I'm happy to have you here. I really wanted to open up your eyes and your consciousness to what's possible for you to either become an author, or if you're already an author, to have that be a wildly successful and enjoyable experience, and join the ranks of the top 100 or 1% income earners in the world, and that it's possible for anyone. And I've been to so many events over the years and studied with many, many people. And I remember like years ago, decades ago, hearing speakers who were wildly successful be on stage and say something like, you know, if I can do it, you can too. And I remember even hearing those words and thinking, well, yeah, it's okay for you, but it's not okay for me. But I just want you to think about, it is possible. It's possible for anyone. You don't even have to be a great writer. You could be a lousy writer. You say, I have a confession to make. I am not a great writer, and I've never been a great writer. And the great news is you don't have to be a great writer to become successful as an author. You don't even have to write the book if you don't want to. You can get a ghostwriter, or you can get a fabulous editor. So my aim in this short time that we have together is to create confidence in you knowing that this is possible, perhaps even seeing yourself. I'm going to invite you to see yourself in the level of success, enjoying the success that you once desired, that you do desire, where perhaps there may have been some uncertainty or disbelief or something that was just really causing you to not even be open to the idea and to explore what that would really be like. So that's one of my goals for today, is to create that confidence in you so that you really believe it and you feel it. And maybe, just maybe, you're already feeling it right here, right now, just on what we've covered in the first 5 minutes of our time together today. Also want to get rid of any confusion. and replace it with clarity. You see, the thing that stops people from experiencing success is they're confused. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do next. I had that experience in my own life. When I decided I wanted to write a book, I was really confused. I didn't know how to write a book, and I didn't have anyone to guide me, to take my hand and show me the way. But I had the desire, and I decided to just put aside the confusion, replace it with clarity by taking action, which you're going to hear about how important that is. So I want to show you some of the things that I've done and what others have done to show you what's absolutely possible for you. And as you probably know the expression, and these things others have done, but you can do even more than what I'm sharing with you here. So I want you to just agree to commit. We're not going to be together for a long period of time today. We're going to be together for about another 45 to 50 minutes. So I'd love for you to agree. I'm here to give you my undivided attention. The door's closed, my cell phone's shut off, the do not disturb sign is up, and I'm here to give you the absolute best of what I've got in this short time that we have together. And I would love for you to really give this your undivided attention so that you can see and understand and get excited about this possibility of you being a very successful author, a New York Times bestselling author, and get into that 1% top income earners wherever it is that you live in the world. So if that's something you would love to experience, which I know you've already agreed on, but I just want your commitment. Do the socializing later. And that's why I shut the chat down, because I didn't want it distracting people. I didn't want you to be starting to, oh, I see Jane's here, let's chat with Jane or whatever. And you know what? I think that's wonderful to connect with other people, but really give it your attention. So we're in agreement with that. I'm assuming that was a yes. So I want to talk about where the success lies. There was a song written and sang years ago by Connie Francis called "Where the Boys Are." And of course, I'm not going to sing it for you right now, and you wouldn't want me to sing it for you right now. But the reason why that song came to my mind is thinking back to that song that I heard when I was a young girl. I was thinking about how Connie Francis, sang that song about a vision of something that she really, really wanted to experience in her life. And that was her man, right? Having that relationship in her life, because she knew that it was a dream and that it was possible. And that's the same thing that we're talking about with being a New York Times bestselling author and being in the top 1% income earners. It's a dream, maybe, perhaps for some, but it's absolutely possible. And that's perhaps what we're doing here, is we're really connecting to the dream. Also, back in the 80s when I was growing up, I remember there was a fast food chain store. They created burgers and all kinds of other food called Wendy's. And they did this whole series of television commercials focusing on where's the beef, where's the beef, where's the beef. The reason why that came to mind today is, sometimes we're looking for something that's just not there. Right? Like, where's the beef? It's just not there. That was the challenge these three elderly ladies had when they're looking for the beef, when they went to competitive kinds of burger joints. They couldn't find the meat. And that's what I want to give you. I want to give you the meat of what's possible, to show you just how, once you know how this opportunity that's right in front of you, that's here right now, no matter where you live in the world. I mean, we've got people on this call from all different parts of the world. And you've probably heard me say before, and if not, I think it's important to note that you don't even have to live in the United States to become a New York Times bestselling author. You could live in China. You could live in New Zealand. You could live in Canada, which is where I live. So these opportunities, the opportunity today, where we are right here, right now, is greater and grander than it's ever been. And the reason for that is because we have the power and the availability of this thing called the internet. And that's how you and I are connecting right here, right now. And you use this thing called the internet to connect with other people in multiple styles, in multiple ways. But did you know that there are trillions of dollars that are being conducted in e-commerce online every year on the internet? And that the numbers, the dollars, the revenue from e-commerce only continues to grow? and that we have half the population on this planet, about 3.5 billion people, are already online. And so I look at this opportunity as having a storefront, if you will, where there's no walls, there's no brick and mortar, we don't have to pay rent for it. And it's open 24/7. And there are no borders to cross or to go through in order for others to get to you, to what you have to offer. So this is a tremendous opportunity. And if you haven't been tapping into it before today, well, get tapped in, because you're already connected to the internet. What it really takes, and I think you're probably getting this, is the understanding and the strategies in order to create the success that you desire. But what I want to get you excited about right here, right now, is what that opportunity is, and that opportunity is available for you right here, right now. And what I love about what it does, what this big opportunity does for us, is not so much, how many dollars we can earn, but it's really about what does it mean to you and your life? What does it mean to you and your life? You see, I live a pretty amazing life, a life that I thank God for every single day. I have a wonderful family. I'm happily married to my husband, Denny. We live in a beautiful home. We have a waterfront home as well that we invest lots of quality time. I invest lots of quality time with my son and my grandson and my daughter-in-law, and I am blessed in so many ways. And so creating the success as an author, I want you to just think about, what could that do for your life? How could that positively impact your life and perhaps your family as well? I had a conversation yesterday with my daughter-in-law, Kayla, and Kayla was sharing with me how she wants to do something really special online, and she's very aware of the work that I do. She wants to do something very special online to help parents with their children, because James, my grandson, and her son just started school this year. So she's thinking about the things that she's created, strategies that she's created in her home that have really helped boost James' confidence and helped create such a calm and harmonious environment in the home. So what happens is, when you create even greater success in your life by either writing your book or books, or putting your books on the New York Times bestseller list, and then creating a foundation for a business behind it, and all the revenue potential that you can earn while you're serving the world, while you're making a positive difference. You see, you've got to get your values in place, in order. You must know what's most important. I am very clear. Family is my number one value. Yes, I'm a businesswoman. Yes, I'm in the top 1% income earners. Yes, I'm running a 7-figure business. And I love what I do. I feel blessed to do what I do. And yet, at the same time, I love the difference my work makes in the world and how it positively affects people. I was on a conversation earlier today with a gentleman who's working on his book. He's bringing his book out to the world. And this gentleman I'm helping has earned 9 figures in revenue in his business. 9. So do the math on that, right? We're talking over $100 million. And I'm helping this guy. He's helped me. And he's not my first over $100 million client that I'm blessed to work with. And I was saying to him today, because he's just about completed his book. His book is going to be done in a matter of a couple days. And I said to him, one of the things that I love about what I do with helping authors is that I know his book is going to make a big difference in the world. And as a result of that, I feel like I'm living my mission, which is to make a positive and a beneficial contribution to the lives of millions of people. So when you live your life by your mission, when you decide, why are you here? Why are you here? What is it that you really want to do? You see, we're going to be gone someday from this planet, from this earthly plane. And hopefully that's going to be a long time down the road. But you can leave your legacy. You can leave your mark in this world by leaving your book. Think about it. Think about the books that we study. Like, I'm here in my office right now, and on my desk, I have The Power of Awareness. And behind me, I have books on my bookshelf. And over in the other part of this room, I have books all over my bookshelf. Books impact people's lives, period. And books also, whether they're fiction, which are novels, also impact people. because they entertain, right? They engage people. They allow them to go off on a journey together using their imagination. They can impact people in a positive way. But I want you to think right now, right here, get connected to, just imagine your life, and you're in the top 1% income earners, and your book is on the New York Times bestseller list, and you're experiencing phenomenal success. Just imagine how that's positively impacting your life. Maybe you're getting emails and calls and letters from readers sharing with you how much they love your work and love your style and love the difference you've made in your life. Perhaps your family is sharing with you how grateful they are that you decided to take action and do this, and that they feel so much better and so proud of you, and that it's positively impacted their life too. And they're proud of you. And just think for a moment, just imagine for a moment how good you're going to feel, that great sense of accomplishment. When I was talking to my client this morning about his book, and we set a goal less than a month ago that he would complete his book in 1 month, and he's on track. He sent to me this morning a document with 35,000 words, and he said by Monday evening he would be done. I said, how are you feeling? And he giggled and he said, I'm feeling a little tired. And he said, the thing that stopped me before, the thing that stopped me from actually getting this book done is because I thought I was too busy. And he said, I decided to write this at one of the busiest time. Actually, he said, it's the busiest time of our entire business. And he said, I'm amazed. He said, I could have written 2 books. He says, I'm amazed what I'm able to get done. I feel really, really good about it. And he knows it's already affecting how he's feeling about himself. And of course, when that book comes out in the world, it's going to be amazing. Now, I'm blessed because I get to get a firsthand look at it before it even gets out into the world. But just think about that for a moment, just how it could impact you, your life, where you're living, how you're living, how it could positively impact your family, perhaps your friends, and your career. Like, I know without a doubt that my career has taken off in only glorious ways as a result of writing my 12 books, working on my 13th and 14th actually right now as we're here together. And Bob Proctor, who was my mentor, is my mentor. I started studying when I was 19 years of age, and I'm 58 right now. So that was a long time ago. And here I am sharing the stage with Bob Proctor. He has an event, a very exclusive event in Hawaii. It's called the 1% Club. And I presented at that a couple of times. He has no other presenters presenting there. I'm not an employee of Proctor Gallagher Institute, but he had me present there. I've been to Bob's birthday parties, been to his home, flown with him on the private jet together. I'm speaking at his event next week. And so I'm not saying that to brag. I just want you to think about your career and some of the things that you would love to do. You know what I found kind of amazing? I was listening to Bob introduce me recently at one of his events, and he was talking about the relationship that he has. And he was talking about my accomplishments, and he was talking about how we've aligned ourselves together and how Proctor Gallagher is promoting some of my programs and things like that. And Bob was saying, there's no one else that we do as much with who is not an employee of Proctor Gallagher. And it made me smile because you know what? I scripted that. That was a vision that I had already created in my own life in advance. You see, you can script your life in a way that has you living your life the way you desire. But it starts by first creating that image in your mind. And this is essential for success, absolutely essential for success, whether you're looking to become a New York Times bestseller or whether you're looking to get into the top 1% income earners. You must create a very clear picture in advance of the success and what it looks like. What does it feel like? In advance, I call it a power life script. And I've been doing this for decades, since the 90s. And this was a methodology that I came up and started delivering in my own webinars. And now I have people come up to me and say, oh, Peggy, I've been using your power life script and this has happened and that has happened. Every part of my life has been affected by this. Every part of your life can be affected by this. Bob Proctor talks about that. He says, thoughts are things. If you can hold it in your mind, You'll hold it in your hands. You got to first see it. You got to first see your success, and then you will experience your success. And that is an absolutely essential part of success. Now, you may be sitting there going, oh my God, Peggy, I get that. I know that. I know that to be true. Get on with how to get on the New York Times bestseller list. But listen, knowing it and doing it and experiencing it are different. They're different things. There's a lot of people who have a lot of knowledge, and they're very proud of the knowledge that they have acquired as a result of it. I remember hearing a story Napoleon Hill shared about this guy who had been going to his lectures for 20 years. And at the end of one of his lectures, this gentleman walked up to Napoleon Hill, and he had this stack. He had this stack of these legal yellow pages of notes. And Napoleon Hill said, "What's that?" And the guy said, "These are notes that I've been taking for 20 years. Napoleon Hill was kind of impressed. He's like, "Whoa, look at that." He said, "That's quite impressive." He said, "No, it's not." And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I've done nothing with it." Wow. That really impacted Napoleon Hill. And I think about that because I think about the number of people who are avid readers. They're very good at studying. They're very good at showing up, but they do nothing with it. You've got to take action, even though you're feeling the fear. I mean, many of the things that I do in my business, scare the lights out of me, but I do them anyway. I do them anywhere. Like I have felt a lot of fear in my career, but I'll tell you something, on the other side of that are where the rewards are. On the other side of that, like I've done things where I've bought programs and didn't have the money, or signed up and registered for programs where I had no clue where the money was going to come from, and I had other financial obligations. Or I went to do something like quit my job, not knowing how I was ever going to maintain any kind of a sense or a lifestyle that was going to be conducive to the way I wanted to live my lifestyle, when I had this thing called automatic payroll deposit. I've done so many things in my career that scared the daylights out of me. And yet I felt the fear, went for it anyway, had the challenging times, but just busted through like a dog with a bone. That's why I wrote that book, Be a Dog with a Bone, and experienced success on the other side. But this is not something that we can do once in a while and we go, "Oh, I've got it all figured out. I figured it out. I understand success. I'm living success." It has to become a part of our every day, every single day. Every day I study. Every day I'm accountable to an accountability partner. Every day I'm reading. Every day I'm learning. Every day I'm finding a way to serve the world. And as a result, you will continue to grow. You continue to experience even more and more and more success. And it's possible to catapult your success, skyrocket your success to a whole new level. But let's talk about authors and where they make money. All right, where do authors make money? One of the ways that authors make money is from advances from publishers. Now, advances from publishers are a lot less frequent today than what they were 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. The reason for that is because the world is changing. We've got a lot of authors now that have discovered, some of them are my clients, that they can self-publish their book and bring their book out to the world and create success without pursuing a publisher. And therefore, what that's done for the publishing houses is it's created even more competition. There's a lot of competition out there because there's a lot of books. So an author is willing to invest in a book if and when they believe that the author clearly understands how to market the book and has a great book. And both of those things absolutely must be there. You see, every author's responsibility, it doesn't matter if you have a publisher or not, your responsibility is do the marketing of the book. And I learned very early in my author career that 5% of an author's responsibility is writing the book. 95% of an author's responsibility is the marketing. You must learn how to market. Market yourself, market your book. And if you want to bring the book to the world, and that's what my client's doing that I was talking about that I was working with this morning, he's generated more than $100 million in his business just in the last 8 years, obviously very successful. And I asked him, I said, "Are you looking for a publisher?" And he said, "No, I'm going to have a publisher come to me." And he said, I heard you talk about that. And he said, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring the book out to the marketplace. I'm going to sell books. I'm going to make some money with that. Not that that's what his big motivation is. And he said, and then I'll have a publisher pursue me. That's a great way to pursue a publisher. And many, many authors have done that. Here's a picture of one of my clients, a lovely lady by the name of Elle Newmark. Elle Newmark did just that. She got a publishing deal for $2.4 million. First-time author, did not have a big presence online, but what was attractive to the publishing house that bought the rights to Elle Newmark's book is that she was an author that clearly demonstrated she was taking action. She invested in my bestseller program. She took the class. She put together a bestseller launch. She used her creativity, which is something everybody has. She created this online book launch party idea. She contacted some publishers and some agents. And within 2 weeks of launching her book and making it a bestseller, she received an advance for $2.4 million. But here's the thing about Elle. Elle had many challenges in her career. She had the desire right when she was a young girl of 10 years of age to write. Now, not everybody does. She had some talent. I didn't have the desire to write a book until I was in my 40s, and nor am I a good writer. So as you're hearing the stories, don't think that you're excluded from this possibility because you don't think you're a great writer, or that English isn't your first language, or that you don't have an agent. Elle didn't. She tried to get one. She tried to get somebody who would recognize the value of her work through an agent and then get a publisher. It wasn't working for her. So she didn't give up. Now imagine if she had have given up. If she gave up, she would have never received that $2.4 million advance from the publisher, but she never gave up. And she saw her books, 2 books actually, that bought the rights to 2 of her books, be published by a big publishing house. And the day that she sold the rights to her book, a German publisher picked up the rights to her book as well and paid her $75,000 as an advance for the rights to her book. Here's a picture of an author by the name of Meredith Wild. Now, this is another interesting story. Meredith Wild was working for a software company, and she loved writing, and she would write novels, romance novels. And she wanted to bring her book out to the world. So she looked at what her options were. Options are you self-publish your book and you bring it out to the world, or you find a publisher if you can, and if someone thinks your book is worthy, and then you go that route. Well, Meredith didn't want to have anyone tell her that her book wasn't good enough. That was something that she wasn't willing to hear. And so she decided she was just going to self-publish her book and bring it out to the world. But what she did was, because she learned very early in her author career that you must market your book, and she went out on a limb. And between her and her husband, they borrowed some money from her in-laws. She took several credit cards and racked them up to the hilt. And I believe she ended up borrowing somewhere around $100,000 is the story that I heard. And then she created a marketing campaign, launched her book, launched her novel, and within a matter of months had sold 500,000 copies. 500,000. She decided that she was going to get a $10 million book advance from a publisher. She didn't get 10 million. She got 7 million. $7 million. And now she's got multiple books and been on the New York Times bestseller list. And she's decided to open up her own publishing company to help others because she realized that being an author, she didn't want other people to tell her her work wasn't any good. Those kinds of things happen all the time. Think about the Chicken Soup for the Soul book series, which is in the Guinness Book of World Records for the most books ever sold in a series. And I believe they've sold about 1 billion books. 1 billion. And when Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield decided they were going to bring this book together, and they decided by the end of 1999 that they would sell 100 million copies of the books. And there were a lot of people who thought they were crazy, that this was never going to happen, but they didn't lose sight of the goal. And you know what's fascinating about that success? They didn't even write the book. They had other people submit stories, and that's how they created the whole idea of the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. But I want to tell you something. This is the thing, and I think you're probably getting this already. You're hearing an underlying message here that creates success for anyone, whether they're an author or not. But here's what Mark and Jack did. They made a decision that they would do 5 things every single day to promote those books. 5 things every single day. And some of the things that they were doing were probably bizarre. They might get on a radio show and do a radio show interview. They may go into dental offices and leave samples of the book so that people could, when they go to their dental appointment, they'd pick up the book, they'd read a sample story, and of course they'd want the book, and then they'd go and order it or buy it at the store. Or they'd go into the mall and they'd get a table and they'd set it just outside the bookstore and get balloons and maybe a photographer running around making it look like there was a big deal going on and photos were being taken. They created the excitement around the books. And as a result, they created success, right? You can't sit on the sidelines and expect to win in the game. It's not going to happen. Book sales is another way that authors make money. When I first launched my first book, I sold that book from my own website. I self-published the book and sold that book from my own website. Now, you can do that if you're a self-published author. You own the rights. You can sell that book from your own website. The reason why I did it is because I had the opportunity to send the book down to Amazon.com, which is in another country, and I could pay for the shipping, or I could just sell it from my own website. People come to my site, they can buy the book, a lot more profit in that experience. When I first decided, when I made the decision, hey, I think I'm going to try selling my books from my own website, put together a book campaign. The first campaign I ever did, I sold $35,000 worth of books. And what's fascinating about that is people came to my site and bought other things. That was my first experience into this. Now, I've had experiences that have far surpassed those results. I remember helping a friend of mine sell his ebook, put together an ebook, and he said, I think I'm going to follow your role and model, and I'm going to sell my book from my website. So he got the book up and available for sale on his website. He decided to offer it for like $27. Seemed like a good price. And within a very short period of time, he sold, what did he sell? He sold, hang on a second, it was 6,000. It's a $27 book, and he sold 6,826 books. It was $184,302 from selling an ebook that cost nothing to ship and nothing to print. Now, here's the thing. He actually put this ebook together, and he got college students to put the content together. He got college students. He didn't even write that book either. There's so many opportunities for authors to make money. Here's another one of my clients, Nancy Tillman, went through my bestseller class, and she wrote and illustrated a children's book on the night you were born. And she started launching her book. She was selling copies right out of her website in her home. She had the quantity of the books, and she was shipping them. And then one day, her and I were on a call together, and I said, Nancy, would you love to have a publisher? And she said, yeah, Peg, that would be great. And I said, well, how many books have you sold already? At that point, she had already sold 40,000 books. That's remarkable. I want you to understand that statistics for books, when a book is released, that 93% of all books that are released will never sell more than 500 copies. 93%. So that means 7% will sell more than 500 copies. And of course, there's only a tiny percent in the top 1, 2, 3%. But the ones that are selling are along that extra mile where Wayne Dyer said it's not crowded, because they're doing the marketing, right? They follow through. They're promoting their books. As a result, they're creating success. So I introduced Nancy Tillman to my agent. They had a lovely meeting. I brought my agent, who happens to be Kathy. I brought Kathy a copy of Nancy's book, and she loved the book. She thought it was very well done. They met. Kathy decided to represent Nancy. The first deal advance that she received for Nancy Tillman was $250,000, $250,000. Now, since then, she's actually done many books. She's had 5 books on the New York Times bestseller list, And I just got an email from Kathy Hemming a couple weeks ago to tell me that Nancy Tillman has now sold over 5 million, 5 million copies of On the Night You Were Born. 5 million copies. And just think about it. Think about it just for a moment. She sold 5 million copies of a children's book. Let's say she's only earning $5 for every book sold. And that's just one of her books. Remember, I said that her other books were also on the New York Times bestseller list? That's $25 million from one of her books. It's incredible what's possible. She's obviously in that genre. Amanda Hawking, she decided that she was going to put an ebook up and available online for sale because she needed a couple $100s for something. So she thought, well, you know what? I'm going to take some of my stuff. And she writes in a number of different genres. Fiction is the genre. And she decided she was going to start selling her books online. Within a short period of time, she had sold 1.5 million copies of her books. Her books were well received. People liked them. She just started promoting them online. Then she received an advance from a publisher for $2 million. And young Amanda was still in her 20s when all of that happened. Just think about J.K. Rowling. Are you familiar with her story and where she came from and what she went through? Like J.K. Rowling, when she first wrote her first book, was actually on welfare. She was a single mother. She couldn't afford to pay the heat in her home. She had to go to a local coffee shop to stay warm. And now look at Harry Potter. J.K. Rowling is the first author to enter the billionaire status. Billionaire status. I'm absolutely remarkable. And then just think about the foreign rights. You know, sometimes my clients will ask me, or should I translate my book into another language? It's like, no, let the foreign rights publishers come after you. Let them do it. That's what they're in business for. Unless you're living in another country and you're speaking that language and you want to have your book in that language, maybe that does make sense for you. But my books are now in 37 languages, 37 languages. And that occurred from my marketing on the internet. That's how it occurred. I started marketing my books on the internet, and then next thing you know, I'm getting emails from all over the world asking me if they could publish my books in their languages. And then I got picked up by a big publisher, the biggest publisher in the self-help genre, which is Hay House. And before the book was even released, they had sold it to multiple countries in different languages. But that occurs when you're effectively marketing online. But what's fascinating about that is most foreign rights publishing deals come with an advance as well. So let's say you had, and I gave you that example a minute ago with L. Newmark, and L. Newmark received an advance from a German publisher, and the German publisher picked up the rights to her book for $75,000. But let's go, a little lower than that. Let's say you're getting, $8,000 for foreign rights, and they're buying the advance for your book, and you get 10 countries. There's another $80,000. This is just another source of income for a successful author. There's multiple sources. If you're selling the books on your own, on your website, you're making money from that. If you're selling books through a publisher and they're being sold through retail chains or online retail chains, you're making money from that. Foreign rights, you're making money from that. This is just an example. I took a little screenshot of some of the books that are on my bookshelf. You'll see my name is in English. You can understand what that means, but some of the other language you might not understand. But those are just some of the books that I've already received of my book and books in multiple languages. All right, another thing is, and I want you to really, really grab a hold of this idea. Consulting, coaching, mentoring, other products, services. There's so many different opportunities here, even if you are a fiction author. I'm working with a lovely, lovely, lovely children's book author right now, and she has expertise in helping people with on-stage presence, with speaking, with professional speaking. She's really good at it. She's been acting since she was 10 years of age. And so she invested in one-on-one mentoring with me, and we invested an entire day together in my home. And I asked her, I said, let's start with what is it you'd love to create? What income would you love to be earning? Let's start there, and then we're going to work backward. And this is a great way. You can do this too. Think about it. What income would you love to be earning? Just pick a number. You've heard that expression before, pick a number, any number. Pick a number. What's that number? And then you can work toward that number, but you're going to need to come from that number, meaning you've got to act as if you're already earning it. So we started to brainstorm ideas, and I learned and discovered that she had this incredible talent and this understanding that she could bring some great value to other people. And so everyone has something of value that they can bring to other people. I mentioned my daughter-in-law, Kayla. Kayla wants to help other parents with issues that they may be having with their children. And what do parents care most about? Their children, usually. That certainly is the case in my case. And so consulting, coaching, mentoring, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely an opportunity. I have a friend who created a program, a consulting program, and she has generated just over $13 million from her consulting program, because what she did was she did it in a way that other people could teach her materials. And so if other people are teaching it, they're investing in understanding the business. They're essentially buying a business, and then they guide them into how they can get clients and how they can teach the program. And of course, it's a win-win-win for everybody. And as a result of that, one idea that generated more than $13 million. Here's an example. Carol Abramson, she wrote a book called Not 3, but 21, The Investor Relations Audiences Every CEO and CFO who's serious about attracting Wall Street interest must understand. Now just think about that for a minute. Just go with me on this, okay? Just think about it. Let's say you know Carol, and she came up to you and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this book called Not 3, but 21, Investor Relations Audiences Every CEO and CFO. You know, people might think that there's not a big audience for that, right? Like there's not a mass market for a book by this name with that subtitle. It's not a mass market book. But what did she do? She wasn't looking to create a mass market book. She was looking to use the book as a business tool. All right, we're talking about authors and money, a business tool. She gave away 250 copies of the book, and out of that, 100 clients hired her, generating $2 million in consulting fees. You see, the way the book is created or constructed was designed in a way, perhaps she was sharing examples, stories. People could see she was a person of authority because she had written a book. And then in that book, she talked about these 21 investor relations, the things that people needed to know to attract Wall Street interest. So she knew that there was an audience out there that would be interested in what she had to offer. And in her book, she talked about the services that she provided, talked about the successes that she experienced. As a result, it's almost like selling without really selling. Selling without really selling. I was reading a book last weekend from another internet marketing guy. I study this stuff all the time. And he was talking about how his clients pay him $100,000. And I have a lot of people that I know in this business, same thing. They're paid $50,000, $100,000, $150,000. It's kind of like their base fee. And they hire them to do some things or to guide them in their business. That's the base fee just to get in. And so in their book, they explain, you know, I work with my clients and here's how it works. It's $100,000. And one particular book that I was reading last weekend was talking about how 100,000 is just the entry fee, and then they charge 10% until they reach $1 million. And so their fee is $1 million. So what happens is when someone sees that, I mean, they may look at that and go like, holy Toledo, that's a lot of money. But they might look at that and think, wait a minute. If they're promising, or not promising, but it sounds like a promise, correct? Like if they're thinking that my business will get to a point where they're going to earn $1 million, and that's 10% of what I've earned, what they're saying is the potential here is for $10 million in revenue. So what happens is someone sees that and they get excited about what's possible. That's what they get excited about. You've just got to be a little more creative. Just got to tap into the mental faculty. And sometimes The things that are really obvious, the opportunities are right there, aren't so obvious for you. Sometimes you need a mentor or someone to help you or to guide you on where these possibilities are. There's so many sources of income that are available for authors. And it could start with a book, or you could create a program, which is absolutely a specialty of mine, create programs and sell programs. Just think about it. I remember when I had called my friend Bob Proctor, and I was telling him that I was looking at this home that Denny and I had in mind, and it was about $1 million more than the one that we were previously in. And so I called Bob, and Bob said, we'll just buy the house. And I said, well, it's $1 million more. The million seems kind of big. And he said, Peggy, $1 million is neither big nor small, only thinking makes it so. He said, create a program, sell it for $1,000, get 1,000 people in. You know how to do that? That's what you do all day long. It's like, oh my goodness, obvious, right? Right in front of my face. Just needed my mentor to open up the window so that I could see what's possible. And it's true, I had done that many times. There's a story that I shared in the Inside of the Day Friday story that Proctor Gallagher Institute releases. And in that story, I talk about big opportunities. And I talked about a time when my mom was diagnosed with terminal cancer. And this was around March timeframe. And the doctors gave her 6 months to 9 months to live. They didn't expect her to live out a year. And it was in her lungs, and it was pretty advanced. And my mom couldn't take any kind of treatment because she had other issues with her heart and some other things. And so she just accepted the fact that this was going to be the thing that was going to take her life. And she was 77 years of age at the time. And I asked my mom, I said, what's on your bucket list? What would you love to do? And she said, I want to go back to Florida, and I'd love to see my friends in Florida again. My parents used to live in Florida. When they retired, they bought a house in Florida, and they lived there all year round. And my dad got sick, and then they had to move back to Toronto. So they moved back to Toronto. They were living in Toronto, and then my dad passed away a couple of years earlier. And so my mom said, I want to go back and I want to see my friends. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to make it such a comfortable trip for you. I booked first-class tickets, and I rented a beautiful home on a golf course in a private gated community. And so we settled into our rental home down there in Florida for Mom to have some quality time with her friends, and her friends would come over and visit every day. They'd come for little visits. And because my mom wasn't feeling her best, she would have these naps throughout the day. So my husband, Denny, and I would go for walks and just go for a nice walk through the community. And both Denny and I love golf courses. And I was golfing at the time, and Denny's a big golfer. And we just go walking around the golf course and really enjoy the beautiful scenery and the gorgeous homes and the warmth of the sunshine. And we happened to walk by this house, and it had a for sale sign on the lawn. And I looked in the window, and I could see that the house was empty. It was obvious that the house was empty. And I thought to myself, So I took a pen and a piece of paper, and I wrote down the real estate agent's name and the phone number. And my husband looks at me doing this, and he's like, what are you doing? And I said, I'm just writing down the name and the number. What for? And I said, well, I'm curious. And he said, well, we're not in the market to buy a house in Florida. And I said, well, don't you love it here? And he's like, yeah. And I said, wouldn't it be nice to have a home down here, a vacation home? We wouldn't live here all year round, but we could come down here, when those winters get really cold and it's rather frosty up there in Ottawa. And he's like, yeah, that kind of sounds good. So we get back to the house, and I call the real estate agent, and he meets us at the house. And I love the house. It was beautiful. It had high ceilings, had a double-sided fireplace. It was very well laid out. The kitchen had all been redone, had a beautiful Florida room at the back. They call it a lanai, had a hot tub in it. And you could see the 8th hole and some of the 9th hole as well. And it was gorgeous. And I just said to the agent, let's go to your office. I want to make up an offer. I think my husband thought I was nuts at the time, right? I mean, we hadn't even been married that long at this point. And so I think it was sort of like going along with it. So I go to the real estate office, I make an offer, the seller accepts, and I had a deal. I had a firm deal. I didn't put any conditions on it. I just said, I'm going to take possession in 60 days. I had no idea how I was going to buy that vacation home. We already had a home back in Canada. No idea how I was going to buy or pay for this vacation home. But you know what it was? It was an inspiration. It was what my husband calls a carrot. It was something in front of me that I was going to go for. So then I got back home and I started to think about another source of income that I could create. And creating sources of income should really come from this place, should come from the thinking place of, what do I have of value that people really want, that people are willing to pay for? So you got to think about what people's wants are. What's the burning problem that people have? What challenges are people facing? What could you create or offer or deliver or bring to the world that can really contribute, that people would be willing to pay for? And I just got on with the work. And I created a brand new program. I launched it online and it brought in all the revenue, and it was easy. So the day the deal closed, the real estate closed, I bought that house in Florida. I had all the money and I paid for it with cash. I paid for that house with cash just from creating another source of income. So I hope you're getting the idea behind this, right? That when you learn and understand how to effectively market, whether it's a book or a program, it's repeatable. You can replicate it. You can do it again and again and again. And I love this quote by the late Stephen Covey. He said, if your ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step you take just gets you to the wrong place faster. It's not enough to think that you're doing something, right? Or you're reading a book, or you've taken a course, or you're invested in something. Is it the right wall? Are you leaning against the right wall? In other words, have you found the mentor, the guide, the system, the program that's going to take you to where you want to go? This is a really important question. I remember when I heard that, I thought, bam, that is so true. So true. And I love what Robert Orban said. He was a comedian. He said, every morning I get up and I look through the Forbes list of the richest people in America. And if I'm not there, I go to work. Isn't that the truth? I mean, great sense of humor, but the fact that you get up every morning, we're getting up every morning anyway, right? We have the same amount of time as the next guy. We're all given 24 hours a day, 1,440 minutes a day. What are you doing with it? You can be so much more effective with your day now. I think you know that already, right? So I ask myself this question: what if I put this together in a system that taught others how to do the same or more? For those that are really, truly serious, they may be hungry and they're committed. They might not know how, but they've got a desire to create success. And I know from my own experience the level of commitment that's required. So I decided that I'm going to take my system, the New York Times bestseller system, the authors and money system, and create a program where you can take action. And as Pablo Picasso said, it's the foundational key to all success. It's what really, really makes the difference. You've got to be taking action. All right. And you've heard it. You've heard it. When we think about the examples that I've shared with you in this time that we've been together here for a very short period of time. I've talked about what's possible. I've talked about you don't have to have any experience. You don't have to have any knowledge of the business in order to be successful, but you absolutely have to have the desire, and you must be willing to do the work, and you must invest in the time, the energy, and the money to experience success. If you don't, you're not going to be successful, and you very likely will feel fear. Now, here's what I already know about you. Even if we had 4 hours together instead of this short hour that we've been together, it's going to be hard, almost impossible, for you to create lasting change to the full extent and the benefit of what you want based on what I can give you. So now, no matter how good anyone is, one webinar isn't really going to go about changing your life to the point where you want and deserve, and you really do need more than that. So while what I've given you today was incredibly valuable, and I know it is, and frankly, the tip of the iceberg, and if you liked what I shared with you so far, you're going to love what I have for you next. And you said to yourself earlier in the beginning of this call that you had the desire to experience that success, that you're here, you wanted to create 1% in earning. So And see, before doing this webinar, I was really faced with two choices. My first choice is that I could share with you what I've learned so far, or my first choice was that I could share with you what I've shared with you so far, part way with you so that you can own it and maybe even go for it. And then the second option is to take a more active role and more responsibility, because there's a lot of responsibility on me as well for your success, to create a situation where our relationship could evolve even further to an ongoing, growing relationship. So those are my two options. And I decided that I'm going to go with the second option. So the second option, based on the two choices that I had, was to create more of an active role for you, the responsibility. So I put together something called the high-end bestsellers. And I know this isn't for everyone. And I absolutely cannot take everyone anyways, because there's limited number of spots that are available in the high-end bestsellers. But it is an exclusive program that includes 6 months with me of high-end training. And this is what we're focusing on: New York Times bestseller. We're going to have a couple days right here in my home in September where you're going to come here. You don't have to, but it's part of what I'm including in it, where we're going to work together. We're also going to have some private time together as well. So it's called High-End Bestsellers. I'm just going to invite you to go over and check it out. I'm going to go over here and stop the screen sharing there. There we go. There, we're back. All right, great. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to also open up the little chat screen here. Okay, great, great, great. So I'm going to open up the chat screen here. Now, I know some of you had sent some questions, and I've got a few minutes remaining. I've got about 10 minutes where I can actually take some questions. If you're still here right now and you have a question for me that you'd like me to address, you can type it in that little chat screen there that's on your screen. It's working right now. All right, Dr. Yusi says, hooray. Okay, great. While we're waiting to see if there are any questions, because I did get some questions that came in advance, and I can't answer all the emails. I get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of emails landing in my inbox every single day, and it would be impossible to answer all of them. So what I do is I create programs and opportunities for those that really do want the success and are ready to invest in this success, that they get access to me in the programs, in the classes. All right, so if that's something, or you want private mentoring, you can go to peggymccall.com and you'll see that there is private mentoring that's available, which I only have a couple spots available for that. But if that's something you're interested in, you could certainly go there. Hey, Chaim, thank you very much. I can tell you my life was never the same since I got to know you and Bob. I love how you're so committed to your success, and I love how you're bringing so much more value and really extending beyond what you've already been doing, all the great work that you've been doing in this world. It really is remarkable. I love that you're here. I love that you're here. This is great. And Dr. Yusi as well. Dr. Yusi has been someone that I've been very blessed to work with for quite some time now. I met him again through Bob Proctor, and Dr. Yusi has created a wonderful book and made it an international bestseller, is looking to create a New York Times bestseller as well, and has generated multiple sources of income online, and his life will never be the same as well. So I'm excited to see that Dr. Yusi was here, or is here as well. I'm not sure if he's still here, but he was here a little earlier. And I know I could probably spend an entire day just going over success story after success story after success story. I now have my clients who call me and they know I'm going to be speaking at different things, and they're like, can you put me in your presentation? And it's kind of fun to receive that experience of that. All right, I'm going to be doing another webinar as well on Tuesday evening, and we're going to talk about the blocks that authors experience for success, and you'll be hearing about that as well. Hey, you're very welcome, Jane. Thank you. I'm happy that you've been here. It's been my pleasure. All right, great. Well, I'm not sure if we have any other questions here, right now, and if not, well, that's okay. We can call it a wrap. So I'm going to call it a wrap. Check out High-End Bestsellers. It would be wonderful to have you in there. Oh, way to go. Here we go. What can a person do if she has no financial resources to invest in the training? It sounds incredible. While it's nice to hear about the stories of the success, often it appears one must have money to make money in publishing. Okay, great question. And I'm really glad that you asked that question. Here's the thing. It's if you know you want something, that's when you need the money. So the best thing to do is to decide you want something. And frankly, everything that we have in our life came from desire. You need money to live in this world, right? You need money to have a roof over your head, to have the lights turned on, to drive a car or get anywhere via transportation. So if it's something that you want to experience, you first decide that you want it. And here's what I know for sure. And this is from my training over the last 40 years of studying Bob Proctor. When you decide you want something, you do not have to know how you're going to get it. Just decide that you're going to have it. And then once you decide you're going to have it or do it, then you see yourself and you imagine that you're already there. And when you're coming from this place of knowing it's already done, like I remember decades ago signing up for a program. We're going back many, many years, almost 30 years ago. And I signed up for a program that was $12,500. And I had no idea how I was going to pay for that program, but I decided I would do it. And sure enough, I attracted the $12,500 into my life. It doesn't matter if it was $12,500 or 12.5 million. It's the same level of energy to manifest. You see, when I decided I was going to buy the house in Florida, I didn't have the money to do it, but I decided I was going to do it. I made a commitment and I found a way and I bought that house. I bought many homes as a result of that. So that's the way it works. If you decide you want it, you made a decision that you're going to do it, you'll find the way. Can we relaunch a book and make it a New York Times bestseller? Absolutely, Yusi, you sure can. Absolutely, you can take the book that you have right now and you can relaunch it and make it a bestseller. My book is called How My Husband Keeps Me Happy, and it's a humorous, entertaining relationship book. Can that type of book become a New York Times bestseller? Absolutely. Listen, just go, there's many different types of books that are on the New York Times bestseller list. If it's fiction or nonfiction, it can get on the list. And what are the books in the world? Fiction or nonfiction. So yes, there's an audience for your book. It can definitely get on the New York Times bestseller list. I appreciate you asking the question. Okay, we're going to call it a wrap. And if you're looking to join the high-end bestseller program or you want to work with me one-on-one in a one-on-one capacity, get over to my site, peggymccall.com. You can check out, there's a number of different options to work with me. Check them out. Private mentoring. I have something called Peggy's Kitchen Table. That might be of interest to you, and or high-end bestsellers. Either one. Look forward to serving you and seeing you again in the future. Thanks for being here. All right, everyone. Bye for now.